Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Road Deck Chronicles. And I am back from my vacation. It's me, Dean, and once again, I have Devin with me.
Hey guys, hopefully everyone enjoyed their week. I know obviously Dean did, just coming back from your trip with your wife. So hopefully you're not too tired to do this week's episode.
I'm struggling a little bit, to be honest, but I I'm looking forward to doing this podcast, so I will tough it out. I got my caffeine with me, so I'll be drinking that throughout the episode. I'll show you the mug that I got. But how was your week with Pokemon? I know there was a community day and there's a lot of things going on. So what have you done this week?
So, like you said, this weekend was a community day in Pokemon Go. I did a little bit of it. I didn't do much because I did the original Total community day way back in the day. And then Sunday was a Mega Raid day for Mega Absol, which is one of my closest friend's favorite Pokemon. So I actually went out and did a couple raids for him. He lives in the area. He's a rule player. He's lived in the area where he doesn't really get to do these raid events.
Mm-hmm.
So when like Chris and I can do it, and it's something you can duo or tripo pretty easily, we go invite him. I know it uses one of his raid passes, so we plan these like weeks out. And I'm like, hey, I know this is your favorite Pokemon. I can do two. Is that okay? He goes, yeah, let's do it. And we blew through it. It was good. It was fun. I've been playing a lot of Legends Arceus with the ZA announcement, obviously, and I've been trying to perfect the Pokedex in that game. And I'm really close. I'm like 3 away, so I'll have all that done by the weekend. So I will have a perfected, 100% completed game going into the ZA launch, which is really fun.
That would be good. Hopefully they'll have like rewards if you have different save files. I know they've done that in the past with other like spin-off games. Like if you have a save file for I think it was like Sword and Shield, we got a certain Pokemon into your
Yeah, in
games.
BDSP, if you had a Sword and Shield and a Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee file on your Switch, you got a Mew and a Jirachi as a gift Pokemon early in the game. And
Yeah.
then in Legends Arceus, you actually, in order to complete the dex, you have to have a BDSP file on your Switch in order to get the Darkrai entry onto the Pokedex.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so on the Switch, I was doing the perfection on. I actually had to start a BDSP file just so that profile on that Switch had it, so I could get the Darkrai.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh, this is dumb. I have like probably about 400 hours on my other BDSP file. Come on.
Well, with me, as Devin mentioned, I was on vacation last week, and I saw that him and Vimmer took the podcast and did very well with it. I actually watched the episode when I was on vacation when it came out.
I'm glad you enjoyed it because we were both nervous.
Yeah, I turned it on while we were just chilling. So those who don't know, I actually went to Japan last week. So it was a nice bucket list trip for me and my wife. We did some sightseeing, did a combination of Disney stuff and Pokemon stuff. So it was a really nice, relaxing vacation. We enjoyed it. But while I was there, I was able to go to 4 Pokemon centers and I went to the Pokemon Cafe. So it
So
was really good.
how was the Pokemon Cafe? Because you couldn't get a reservation, right? You had to go through the standby queue.
Yeah, so I actually tried getting a reservation because I was told you couldn't go unless you had one. So I woke up early, like you had to do a month ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on the website, and it's like super early in the morning for us here because it's 6 p.m. Japan time, which is I believe like 4 or 5 o'clock our time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm on the website, and it reminded me a lot of signing up for a regional way back when it first came out of COVID, where it was like so hard to get a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I ultimately did not get one. So I'm like, oh man, I really want to do the Pokemon Center or the Pokemon Cafe. And then one of my friends that went over to Japan when they went over for Worlds in Yokohama, she's like, try to go when they first open. They usually have a cancellation. They usually have a standby queue. So as long as you get in early enough, they'll take you. So we went early. We were the second in line in the standby queue for the Pokemon Cafe. They came to us. We're like, well, how many people you have? We told them how many people were in our party. And they're like, oh, come back at this time. And they're like, is that fine? I'm like, yes, that is fine. I'll take whatever time you want. So we were able to do that. It was cute. got to see Pikachu dancing, so they do a little performance with Pikachu. Obviously, I got my Pokemon themed food, and I got a latte with Scizor latte art on there. So it was a really fun experience. The food was much better than I was expecting because I was told go in with low expectations because it's all about the atmosphere. It's not about the
Yeah,
food. But I'm eating the food. I'm like, this is actually pretty okay, like pretty decent. Like I would eat this food. It wasn't bad at all.
and obviously, like it's one of those situations, like you said, you were there for the atmosphere. Was this one of the cafes? This is the coffee cafe, right? This is not the trading card cafe.
Did not know there was a trading card cafe, but yeah, this is just the regular Pokemon cafe
Okay.
where you can get a food. There is a dessert shop. I didn't go to that one. I didn't see it. But while I was there, as I mentioned, I got a latte that can get a Pokemon art, and you can spend extra money to get a souvenir mug.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking my caffeine drink in my new Pokemon Center mug.
I mean,
So,
you're there, you're enjoying. You might as well splurge a
mhm.
little bit on the souvenir mug, right?
Oh yeah, and I probably spend way too much money at the Pokemon Center. So for those who don't know, a Pokemon Center is just a Pokemon store. They have pretty much everything you can think of. Some like home goods, um, trading card accessories, plushies,
Yeah.
wall art, anything Pokemon they sell. But I would say they're much smaller than I was expecting. But it was still fun nonetheless. Bought a bunch of stuff. I bought a bunch of Japanese cards.
Uh huh.
So I was able to actually get my hands on Heatwave Arena, which just came out the week before
Uh
in
huh.
Japan. I actually didn't get those cards until my fourth Pokemon Center. They
Oh
were sold
wow.
out of the other three.
I mean, that would make sense if it's a new hot set.
Oh yeah, so I'm gonna open them up soon. I'm actually planning on opening up. I got 10 packs of the Heatwave Arena, 10 packs of the Battle Partners, which is our journey together, and I got a booster box of whatever the name of the set was before that because I don't know what the name of the set
Yeah.
was. So I will be opening that on the live stream later this week.
Yes. So in terms of the live stream, I know we talked about last week on the episode. Just want to reiterate that Dean and some friends are going to be doing some journey together testing post rotation kind of meta with a new set and the new cards. It will be live on the YouTube channel at 7 p.m. on the 28th.
Yes, Eastern time.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel. So for those who listen to us on the podcast, like podcast apps, if you want to come jump over to the YouTube side and watch some in real life testing, that this will be testing in real time. Dean and his friends will probably tell some stories, open up some packs, kind of just have fun and kind of pull the behind the curtain of how you guys test and how you guys prepare decks and learn decks for especially new formats. With rotation, the card pool is definitely shrinking, and a new set being added all at the same time. It's a very chaotic time when it comes to testing, and I think you guys streaming on that Friday would be a really good opportunity to kind of show people how players test decks before going to challenges and cups, especially in a new format.
Yeah, and we thought it would be a great opportunity to showcase new decks coming out, especially with the rotation, because it's going to feel different. We're losing a lot of key pieces with the rotation, like the Radiant Pokemon. We're losing, like, he's doing Heavy Ball, which is almost a one of in every deck. So it will be how do we adapt to a new format? And you'll see us take plays back, talking through our plays, and we'll explain what we're doing throughout. So it's not just going to be us playing or just watching. We're going to be silent. We're going to be talking. We're going to be chatting. It the best way I'm going to describe it is you're going to watch the guys' night playing Pokemon. Like whenever we play and chill, you're just going to have a nice front row seat to that, and we'll explain the decks, the concept of the decks, and you'll see us trying to figure out on the fly how these decks and the theories work because they will be a lot of misplays. I will guarantee you that.
Yeah, I remember when I was in the competitive scene and we would play test decks with new sets, and even just new formats, pre-rotation stuff like that. we didn't have the resources we have now. Like we have Limitless, we have a whole bunch of proxy-based resources that do the translations for us. I remember having to bring a laptop with me to my testing group or a tablet and have PokeBeach or some form of website that can translate some of the cards for us, and we would just write on like an energy card, Leafeon EX, and write how much HP is on it, and like rate the damages, and then like be like, everyone's like, "What's that card do?" And we would have that like on our side, and we're like, "We hope this is accurate," and like we would just go through the motions and be like, "All right, this is what the deck's supposed to do." And just talk it out before the gameplay starts so both sides know what we're trying to accomplish. And after a couple of games, we'll sit back and be like, did we accomplish what we were hoping for, yes or no? And then kind of tweak the deck as we were going. So we had our bulk with us. It was long days. Like I remember getting there at 11 a.m. and staying till almost 10 o'clock at night some days. So
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to do a 12-hour testing session, but I remember doing those things and kind of learning on the fly as well. So those are always the most fun. I think those are some of the more memorable nights I've had when I was playing in the game with my friends, because we would just hang out all day together. Like you said, it's just guys night, kind of just testing, and you just did everything together, and you just kind of made memories while doing it.
Yeah, and if people like this, we'll do this more. It just we had a free night. I talked to my buddies, like, hey, would you want to do this with me? And they were all on board. So we're excited. We'll have Joe that was on the podcast earlier. He's going to be one of the people helping me out, and we'll see if there's anyone else that can come over. So we're super excited about it. We've been talking about what decks we're making for the last couple weeks. So I'm in the process of building some decks now. I went ahead and I'm building. I want to build Blissey Wall. I kind of want to try that out. So I started pulling those cards from my collection, and that's just one deck that we're gonna try to play on the stream. And yeah, we'll have a good time. We're super excited. So please join us 7 p.m. Eastern time on the YouTube channel. And yeah, it will be a very fun experience. And then another event that I'm actually going to and I'm actually helping out at is next week at my local shop in Tampa. So if you're in the Tampa Bay area, um, I go to Coliseum of Comics in New Tampa, and we're doing a road deck night.
Okay.
So I've been helping our professor organize and creating a rule set for that. So we're doing that next Thursday, the first Thursday in April. I believe it's the 3rd. So I'm super excited for that. Obviously, since I'm on the Road Deck Chronicles,
Yeah.
that's right up my alley. So I'm trying to hold my excitement and save my energy for next week because there's a lot of Pokemon coming up. So,
Mm.
but if you're free, if you want to try to do a Road Deck night, please come out to that. Basically, the only decks that are on the restricted list is anything that has made top 32, starting from this last Worlds to present.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because we just had a regional in Stockholm, Sweden, and you and I were going through the list, especially the top 32 before we recorded tonight. And you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to edit the restricted list." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "There's a new deck that hit the threshold. There's a new deck that hit the top
Mm-hmm.
32 that made its first debut into the top 32, and it was the Hydreigon EX deck, which I know you've been very high on since the card has been released a couple sets ago. So it's good to kind of see it have a breakthrough event, even if it's only one player."
Yeah. So, if you have any questions when you arrive, feel free to find me or find our professor, and we'll go through what you can and cannot do. Obviously, a deck is at the discretion of the organizer, so but it's just meant to be a fun night. Get away from playing just meta decks all the time, and the hope is to bring something creative and not necessarily a rogue deck that we see at tournaments that just don't get to top 32, but we want people to bring a whole new deck idea and just let's just have fun with it.
Yeah.
So that
So
will be next week at Coliseum Comics in New Tampa. So I'm excited about that. So a lot of Pokemon, a lot of events for me coming up. Um, and then one thing that came up last couple weeks with just competitive Pokemon is they finally announced the new reward system that they've been teasing us all season.
So yeah, the only thing that I wish they did about this, because it's such an amazing event, amazing news, is if they would have just announced it in like October, November at the beginning of the season, because a
Hmm.
lot of players just not knowing what a CP cap is for the World's Invite just stopped trying as hard and stopped going to as many cups. And now with this new reward system having an actual measurable limit of 200 championship points, it's going to be a little too late for some players, even though it is an obtainable goal, even with this much time left in the season. It's not realistic to be like, all right, you have 0 CP now get 4 cup wins. Like, you're just not going to get that.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, it came out a couple weeks ago, so I'm sure if you're in the competitive realm, you've heard of this, but they introduced something called Ace Trainer Rewards. So what that is, if you reach a certain threshold, in this case it's 200 CP or championship points, you earn the title of Ace Trainer, and you will get a promotion card called Celebratory Fanfare, which I don't know what the card does. They never really translated it, but it's going to be an exclusive card just for those who made that threshold, and you can also get some an exclusive sleeves and deck box in the Trading Card Game Live app client. So
Yeah.
it's a little reward. So anyone that's been actually trying to be competitive, I feel like it's an achievable goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with you. Like we're in the final fourth of the season. We're in quarter four, and those who haven't really tried, this is a really cool thing to try for. But asking for 200 CP in the last quarter, if you're at 0, is asking for a lot.
Yeah.
If you're already like halfway there, like I'm in that position, I have a decent amount of points. I just need like one decent finish at a cup and like finish out my challenge limits. I can probably make that threshold easily. But for those who are far from that, people, I think it would have been good to have that goal from the very get go,
Mm-hmm.
and try to plan that out versus cramming it all in the next like 2 months.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations. So obviously, older world qualifications, and you knew anything above 450 would probably have you in the ballpark of qualifying. So 200 is half of that, and that's a reasonable amount that a lot of trainers who do go to events regularly can probably get close to. Um, it's just one of those things that unless you were really trying to grind for worlds, you weren't really doing much. Unless you just regularly do your cups, you do your cups every weekend, you do your challenges every month at your local game shop. Like there are certain players who would be like, okay, this is not hard. I can probably finish out with this. But there's also a very big portion of the player base, I think, are like, oh, if I would have known this existed, I would have probably gone to X more events.
Yeah.
So that's my only criticism. I'm excited for it because it's a small goal kind of piece. Like it gives trainers who do not have world aspirations or the drive to try to do that super grind a smaller thing to really say, look, I did this, and kind of be able to have a reflection piece to their season. But announcing it this far late, I mean, I don't think that's fair. I think it kind of takes some of the sting out of it, and kind of is a bad taste in the mouth moment for a lot of other players as well.
Yeah, I hope they bring this back for next season and let this be a continuation system. And even if like say next season they improve on it to where like they bring in like a tier system, like you hit like 200 CP you get this, 300 CP you get this, 400 CP you get this, like make
Mm-hmm.
it a tier system where it's achievable numbers and achievable goals, but it also really benefits those who are putting on the grind to make worlds. And so if say you get 126th place, until now it was like, oh wow, it's a feel bad moment. You worked so hard and you just missed the cusp, versus having a reward system like this, like, okay, I did miss worlds, but at least I'm getting like a play mat, or I'm getting a deck box, or I'm getting something.
Yeah,
So
it'd be
it
very
helps with the sting a little bit.
it'd be very interesting if they implement something very similar to the last anime season that Ash was in, the Journeys season, where like
Yeah.
in terms of like how he got to like that world championship kind of moment where he had to go through the different levels, where he had to do like if in this case you would achieve CP to get to the different levels, and like different levels have different things. Like the bottom level would be trainer, the level above that would be ace trainer, the level above that would be gym leader, and then elite four member, and then like something cool like that. So you can add a little flair title onto like your live account or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, so we'll see how TPCI takes this program and hopefully elevate it
Mm-hmm.
going forward. But at least for now, we have that celebratory fanfare card. We have the title of Ace Trainer. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, I can achieve that. I'm very close. So I just need a couple wins and I'm there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives for you, it gives challenges a new meaning now.
Oh yeah, because like pulling back the curtain, I have one first place in 3 seconds. So I was going into challenges. I'm like, I don't really care anymore. Because like, okay, I replaced my seconds with first. I'm getting what 9 CP. That's to me that was nothing at that point because I wasn't going for my world invite.
Mm-hmm.
But the 9 CP actually means a lot for me now because I'm really really close to getting that 200 CP threshold.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. I was actually talking to you off the screen. I'm like, it's actually making me think about the upcoming challenge I'm going to, what deck I'm going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, but speaking of people going after CP and going after big rewards, we had a major tournament last weekend in Europe.
Yeah, and this is the penultimate tournament of the current format, so it's one of those lame duck tournaments, is what I like to call it, especially when it's going into a rotation format change,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to see decks get maybe a rejuvenation or get a last minute sprint. Like, to me, I was telling you, I'm finding it very interesting that Lugia is getting so much attention right now. But you had a very good counter argument. Goes, well, it's just a meta shift. Like Miraidon's not getting as much attention, so Lugia's bouncing back from it, and that is just one of those situations where, in what 3 weeks' time, not even, you can't play Lugia anymore. So I think more and more players are like, you know what, I'm just going to play it one last time, one last ride, kind of deal. And it had a very good showing at this tournament, and a couple other decks did too.
Yeah, I'm talking like Lugia. They had a player, he was an Italian player on stream, and he won the match, and they're interviewing him. And the one thing was like, yeah, I just played the same deck for the last 2 years, and he played nothing but Lugia. So, and he just got better and better, and he got top 32 at this tournament. And it just shows like when you have a powerhouse deck like Lugia, like Charizard, something that will stay in the format practically the whole entire time since its introduction, people get used to playing it, and they can go to any tournament in whatever format and just do really well with it because of the comfortability and the longevity of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so Lugia did really well. Miraidon's not really showing up in the upper tables as it once was just a month ago. Another deck, or first of all, let's talk about the deck that won.
Yeah,
So first
let's
place,
unburied lead, right?
yeah. So before we talk about other decks, let's talk about the winner of the whole tournament, which was won by the American. So two American back to back. Zul won it last year, and now Isaiah Bradner won Stockholm Regional 2025.
I'm surprised you didn't say he finally won a regional. Like, this was his 5th regional final, and he
Ooh,
finally got his win. He also had an international final. I know he was making fun of, kind of poking fun at the situation on his social media, being saying the 5th time's a charm. Isaiah is a phenomenal player. Yeah, he was going to go to Worlds regardless. Now he just clinched his spot. Now he doesn't have to worry about grinding as much anymore.
mm-hmm.
Um, and he brought a pretty standard list, but also a deck that is just one of those. If you can just master it, you're going to do really well with it, which is Gardevoir.
Yeah, and his play group is full of great players, and part of it was Henry Chow, who's known to play Gardevoir, John Ang, who's known to play the top level decks and do well. So it's the new version with the 3 Monkey Dories,
Mm-hmm.
kind of getting away with the Driflim and playing the Klefki and Cresselia instead. But we've been seeing this more and more lately of just having the 4-4-2 Gardevoir really being dependent on that refinement ability and just evolving up to the Gardevoir when you have to, getting damage on the board, using the Monkey Dories to move up to 90 damage if you have all 3 Monkey Dories with the Darkness energy on there
Mhm.
off your board to your opponents and trying to soften up and take those KOs when needed. So it's the newer version of it. I know my buddy started playing this version. He loves it. He's like, I don't know why we weren't playing it like this before. So and got first place. Really great showing. It was, I believe, one of 2 Gardevoirs that make top cut because they had an
Yes.
asymmetrical top cut going all the way to number 12, I believe.
Yeah, it was a top 12, and there was 2 Gardevoir, Fabian Pujo. He got he top cut it with this. He's another very well established European player. Um, in terms of the top cut, the other finalist was a Pidgeot Control. Top 4 was Arcturalodon with Dragapult. And then you kind of had a sprinkling of all the rest of what you would consider meta contenders.
Yeah.
Um, on top of Lugia having a really good showing here, I really thought it was interesting the amount of control that had a high placement. Because, I mean, control is not your eyes' favorite archetype by any means, but in order to just do well at a tournament like this, you have to have a very firm understanding of the control deck you're running because you could run into a lot of ties if you don't.
Yeah, and if you look at the 2 players that did control/stall archetypes in the top cut, they're those are players that are known to play this archetype for any format. With second place being Alexandro Cremasoli, who is also known as iCaterpie in the YouTube content world. He plays nothing but control. And the way he plays it is very humble too. Like he's a very down to earth, very positive player. And he understands what his deck does, and he doesn't slow play. He doesn't do all the shortcomings that a control deck can run into. He's very, I think in one of his matches, he won within like 15 minutes
Oh, wow.
because he understands how to play it and just got into a win condition that quickly.
Okay, and like I said, it's not my favorite archetype. It's not my favorite win con, but I respect the players who can master it because it's a different type of skill ceiling and skill floor there, and it's one of those. If you want to challenge yourself as a player, try to learn the control stall win con and do it within a time frame. I think you
Yeah.
become a much better player if you master that skill because then any other deck is just going to be a lot easier. So I do
Yeah.
respect those players for mastering those skills for sure.
Yeah. And it was actually interesting. I saw a not article, a on Burbank City on Facebook, there was a discussion
Burbank
about about the controls, Snorlax controls specifically, and people were like, "Oh, I can't believe if people know they don't have a win con, why don't they just scoop to me?" And it's like, well, you can't expect them to scoop to you. Like they're playing to their out, which is the time limit, and they rather play for the tie than them just give you the win. So you have to know your scenario, best 2 out of 3 versus best of 1, how quickly you're gaining them into a the win condition, and you can't expect your opponent to concede to you because they don't have a way out other than they get a tie through timeout. Like you
Yeah,
can't expect that of them.
yeah, exactly. And it's one of those that's more of a player etiquette piece and tournament etiquette piece as well. Um, but going through the rest of the day two, there was 2 decks that caught my eye. As we talked about, one of them was Hydreigon,
Yeah.
and that getting top was it? He got 28th, so top 32, and 23rd. I'm sorry, 23rd, and it is great to see a deck finally kind of break through to where I know a lot of people were hyping up this archetype to be potentially meta shifting and meta changing, but it just never really lived up to the expectation, except for when this one player plays it, who is Nedi Kosick. He has 2 day 2s of this deck in the last month and a half, and it's very interesting. I love it. It's just what you expect. Crashing Headbutt 200, and then if you can do the Obsidian every once in a while, you can do it. But it is, I think the deck is definitely built around that Crashing Headbutt attack for sure.
Oh yeah, because he only plays one Neo Upper Energy for his A spec, and
Hmm.
then Darkness Energy. So he's going more for the mill strategy with the Crashing Headbutt. Plays Lost Vacuum to help get rid of the items or stadium that's like really blocking his strategy. And then yeah, just putting on a lot of pressure with the 200 damage with milling, and just hope that the opponent can't like do anything from it. So I like the list, and a lot of it is fairly rotation proof. You do lose the Greninja, or the Radiant Greninja. You do lose the Luminion and the Rotom V. So those are three important Pokemon out, but I'm sure you can make this deck work without them. Probably have to run more supporters, or if you're going with the mill strategy, maybe put in like a Misfortune Sisters or something where you make your opponent lose resources. So that could be an alternative. Um, but everything else on this list, the Lost Vacuum rotates,
The dark
and the
patches
Forest Seal
do.
rotates, and that's it.
The dark patch rotates too, right?
Oh yeah, it does. I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, and I think the dark patch helps it with a little bit of late game comeback piece where you can power up a Hydreigon out of nowhere. But
Yeah, and
it has counter gains, it has the TM evolution, so it's one of those. It can be fairly quick, but it also can be a comebackable kind of like late game deck as well. So this deck seems like you said it's fairly rotation proof, and it's one of those situations where I think it's going to have like 10 cards or so rotate out, but I'm sure you can probably find good replacements for those 10 cards.
yeah, I can see adding like a Crispin in there. Um, and with the Hydreigon being a Tera Pokemon, you can put in a Glass Trumpet and with some energy switch to get the energy into play. Because you play the Pidgeot EX,
Yeah,
so you can find ways. Yes, it's a little more cumbersome, but I still think it's decent chances of getting the energy you need to do the crashing headbutt.
yeah, and it's
But
only
even
two
then, the
energy.
crashing headbutt is only 2 energy.
Yeah,
You
exactly. It's
don't
not
need
a
a
high.
lot.
Yeah, it's not a hard attack to really power up. So it's a good. I found it interesting. It got a top 32, which now means you can't take it to the Rogue Deck event that you guys are doing. But it's a fun deck to watch. I know a lot of people, like I said, were very high on the card, and it just hasn't been able to produce the way that hype was there. And this is just an opportunity to prove that yes, it can, but will it for the foreseeable future? That's to be determined.
Yeah. And then another deck that you actually pointed out to me was Ogie Dogie Garchomp. That made day two, not just one way, but I believe there was
Two,
two, if not three
two player,
lists.
two players made day two with the same 60. And like I was going through it. I'm like, this is genius. It runs a 202 line of Garchomp EX. That's the Terra Water type Garchomp. It has four Okidogi. It has a Radiant Greninja, a Fezandipiti, a Bloodmoon Ursaluna, an Iron Bundle, a Monkey Dory, and a Luminion V. But really, it really focuses on this Garchomp EX. So the Garchomp EX is a Stage 2 Water Terra type Garchomp. First off, it's not
Hmm.
ground or dragon, it's water. Um, it has the attack Hydrolander. It does 160 base damage, but attach up to 3 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon any way you like. So that's how the Okidogi can get powered up, and it doesn't need the add-on of the Darkness energy to really get going. So the Okidogi can just be a super basic fighting attacker. It doesn't have to be a souped-up attacker like some other decks happen to be.
And it's also a good way to power up the Blood Moon Ursaluna if you're in a pinch.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you need to wait till the very late game to attack with it. But if you can set that up and just get an easy 240 knockout with it, that's an easy way to power it up with very minimal effort.
Yeah, and this deck does run one Legacy, four Luminous, and one Darkness. So getting that Okidoki powered up with having two fighting in whatever way you want to put a Darkness on there, that way you're not feeling like you have to put a Luminous on there just to be able to be energy efficient.
Hmm.
It like that good punch turns into 170 easy, and you didn't really put much effort in setting it up. You really set up the Garchomp, and the Okidoki is going to clear out the rest of it for you.
Yeah, so I'm excited with this deck. It's a brand new archetype that no one really saw. Like I pay attention to a lot of the online tournaments. I never saw this anywhere. So the fact that these two players came in and created this deck and did well with it, it reminds me of when Cloth Trapgos first came onto the scene.
Uh huh.
It was done by like just two people from California, and they ended up doing really well in the tournament, and then it just went off from there.
Yeah, I mean, this deck does lose some very key pieces to rotation. It loses Luminion, it loses Radiant Greninja, it loses Irida, and runs a 4 of Irida. It
Hmm.
loses Switch Cart. It loses Collapse Stadium, which I don't think Collapse Stadium is really that big of a piece. But the Iridas, the Radiant Greninja, the Luminion, and the Switch Cart, I think really are the pieces that if you want to pick this deck up and play it moving forward, you're going to have to find a very creative way to really supplement those losses. I know you and I were talking about the Irida for Arven switch. I think is good enough. It's not obviously a like for like, but it's a good enough switch for you to kind of figure out what's really missing. Where that Arven can be like your placeholder testing piece for now.
Hmm.
But I'm interested to see if this is just a flash in the pan or is this going to get some popularity and see some people try it again. I will say that this would be a deck that I would be willing to test and build into probably a post rotation format to see if it has any legs to stand on. But it's
Hmm.
because I really love interesting archetypes like that. And I have a very close friend whose favorite Pokemon is Garchomp. So if I could tell him like, hey, there's a Garchomp deck. He doesn't know much about TCG, but if I could tell him anything about Garchomp, he would be like, show me how to play this.
Play it before Cynthia's Garchomp comes out. Get a taste of it before
Oh,
that.
he's already eating up Cynthia's Garchomp. Like he's like, I'm gonna get a 4 out of it. I'm gonna get a 4 out of Cynthia. I'm like, you do you, boo. You do what you want, because I will tell you, those are not going to be cheap cards to get a hold of. So good luck.
No, not at all.
But
So,
I mean,
but
go ahead.
I'm gonna say those are just some notable decks that we saw. Everything else is more kind of the normal meta decks we see.
Yeah, it wasn't like a format of super crazy proportions. Like I don't think anyone was really trying to experiment too much at this tournament. A lot of these players are trying to get their standings in their respective regions, so they really can't take a lot of risk, but they can still kind of play with a format that is very well established, so they know where the risk reward comes into play. There is one more regional left in this format. Will be in Brisbane, Australia, and
Yep.
this is going to be the true like last thing before a new format. So I'm just going to see how many people are going to go and take that flight and go to that tournament and see what we get out of it, because it's coming up this weekend at the time of recording. So it'll be one of
Hmm.
those things going into April. We'll know who got the last laugh.
We'll see if another Japanese player goes down to Australia and wins it again.
I mean, it's definitely a shorter flight than them flying over to the States or probably most of the European tournaments. So it would make
Yep.
the most sense.
So, with all that being said, I think it's time to switch into our conclusion of our how to train a rogue series.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a summary, we've gone through this really deck building series of like what does it mean to build a deck and do not just a rogue deck but a meta deck, and just understanding like, okay, if I want to play a certain archetype, I need to know what goes into these decks. So we started talking about like what is the main actor of the deck, what are the support Pokemon that helps the main strategy go off, what are the different item cards we need to play to really achieve that goal, what supporter cards are important to really get your card draw going or your disruption going. And then last week we talked about energy acceleration, the importance of trying to set up as quickly as you can, depending on what type of deck you're playing. So we just wanted to kind of talk about our experiences doing this series with you all, what we thought about it, how it helped us with our deck building ideas, and just kind of send this off before we go into Journey Together's format, where we're you and me are already talking about starting a new mini series, and we're not going to go as in depth as the deck building one, but we kind of want to continue the conversation on how to make trainers better when they play the game.
Yeah, over the last 2 months, this whole experiment, I guess, for lack of better terms, right? Because we were like, all right, how do we reflect on how we build decks and how do we put like what do we do? It's helped me learn the card pool so much better. The evolution component of this, like where we really use prismatic evolutions as our little testing ground, has helped me understand the power of some cards in this format. Crispin has been the lifesaver of a lot of the decks we've been building because of the Terra Pokemon energy costs. The
Mm-hmm.
creative acceleration methods in terms of board setup or engines, like you prefer Bibarel. I prefer Fezandipiti and just more aggressive card draw. It's just really interesting to see how we've been taking these same pieces and been interpreting them and executing them very differently from both of our perspectives and play styles, where we've found hidden MVPs, hidden gems, greater understanding of the card pool, and now with rotation coming up, basically going all the way to square zero and be like, all right, we know what some of the cards do. We need to remember what cards we lose, and now we need to see who are going to be the new MVPs.
Exactly. I know one thing I really got out of this was identifying the strategy of a certain card and thinking of what other cards can be synergistic with that strategy. And it was my week, my turn to create the rogue deck of the week, and I thought it would be harder to build a deck around the last evolution that we haven't showcased, which is Jolteon, because compared to the other evolutions, it's not the strongest.
Mm-mm.
But
No.
it actually didn't take me that long to develop a skeleton for this deck that actually worked very well. And you'll see that in the video that comes out on Friday at noontime, where the deck really did surprise me, and it didn't take as long for tinkering and really developing a good deck list than if we would have started 2 months ago. I probably would have spent a lot of time play testing, a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, what cards are out there, because I typically stay with one type of archetype and just play that until I can't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to really familiarize myself with different strategies and what cards are can achieve that strategy just the quickest, it helped me really refine that skill.
Yeah, and one thing you were telling me about, we'll go into that a little bit with the deck in a little bit, was you were picking the like you said, you're picking the skeleton, kind of picking your cards, and you forgot about a mechanic that is still in format but is rotating out. But I think it's one of those things that is important for us to remember when we are building a deck and playing a deck, which is of these one-off mechanics, right? You
Mm-hmm.
completely forgot about Radiant Pokemon. You're like, I don't really need Radiant Pokemon, but you also were very open about this that your ace spec slot could be very flexible with this deck, and I think it goes back to the point of these one-off mechanic slots in your deck can bring value, but sometimes the value is don't bring it.
Yeah, and I feel like with these mechanics, a lot of newer trainers fall into this pit trap that's like, oh, I can only have one of this card in my deck. I have to pick the best card. Like I can only have one Radiant Pokemon. Okay, which one am I choosing? Am I choosing Greninja? Am I choosing Charizard? Am I choosing Alakazam? And it's like, hold up, look at your list, look at what you're trying to achieve, and it's okay not to include a mechanic like a Radiant Pokemon or even an Ace Spec if it doesn't go with your strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm, I will be honest with Jolteon. I don't think there is a Radiant Pokemon that fits this strategy that well.
Yeah, and
Because, but
and
yeah, go ahead.
and like when I did the Espeon deck, you were like, "Oh, Alakazam makes sense. It fits." And I put it in. I'm like, "Nah." I just like No, yes, it does fit. Yes, it has synergy, but it didn't feel right. It felt
Hmm.
like it was like it could be, but should it? And sometimes, like I say this, sometimes the best answer is zero. Like use that slot, use that deck space, that one card space for a card that can bring you more value.
Exactly. And I think another example that we can talk about that's in standard rotation is the ace spec. They're super powerful cards. Really, you see maybe the same five a lot lately.
Yeah.
But even saying the five cards, that's a lot to choose from, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. I'm actually, at the time of recording, we have a deck building channel in our Discord, and a lot of times I just ask questions of like, why did you choose this card? Just so if people can justify their answers. Because if you can't justify why a certain ace spec is in your deck, you may have to reevaluate why you picked it. Like, are you picking it because you were told that it was good? Or are you picking it because it serves a specific purpose to your strategy and you can't achieve it unless you have that one super strong card in there? And a lot of times, like you said, it's okay not to have a card. Use it as a fourth boss or as a fourth whatever you need for more consistency. It's whatever you want to do. You are the deck builder. You don't have to play certain mechanics because Mr. Pikachu says you have to have a one of a certain card in your deck. You don't have to.
Hmm.
All you need is one basic Pokemon and 59 other cards. That's all that's required for a deck.
Don't give people ideas. I played in the era of Quad Whale Lord EX, all right? Four of a 250 HP Pokemon and 56 other cards is not fun. But to go on to your point, though, these one-off mechanics are super strong. We're talking about the V-Star mechanic. We're talking about the Prism Star mechanic, A-Spec, Radiance. And I'm sure there's going to be another one-off mechanic within the next calendar year of time we're recording. Like, Pokemon always wants us to use this, and they will hype it up. They will make it the marketing campaign. They will push it. They'll push it. They'll push it. But sometimes, like you said, if you can't justify a card for that space, just put a better card. Like Arceus V Star was so good because of its V Star. Palkia V
Hmm.
Star was so good because of V Star. Was it Forest Seal Stone? Is good because it gives any Pokemon a V Star ability. That mechanic is really strong.
Yep.
But not every deck needed one, and we were seeing over the course of the V Star life cycle, less and less decks needed it and started just not running a V Star or a V at all.
Yeah, there's some decks that just don't have it at all. Like a good example is Gardevoir. You don't have a V star in that deck. You don't play a Lumineon V and then the Forest
Or
Seal. You
steal.
don't need it. You can achieve your strategy by just using refinement a lot and having your Gardevoir EX in play and just getting the damage on board. So as the format developed and as we got more and more into the EX Pokemon versus the V Pokemon, you saw that mechanic die off and having bulkier EX Pokemon be more prevalent.
Yeah,
And now
and
we're going into a new format where we're going to have trainers Pokemon. So we'll see how that works with just journeying together, and then it'll just be EX going forward.
mhm.
So that's a whole new way of making decks and a whole new mindset of like, okay, how can I make my deck consistent, especially once I'm losing certain consistency cards that we were basically using as crutches this whole entire time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those situations where it's okay to evolve. It's okay to cut something out. Like we saw, like V unions, V stars, radiance, prism stars. Like, yeah, prism stars haven't been standard for years, but it still sits there in the pool of I'm going to be looking at this new card pool. I'm going to be looking at this post rotation world, and do I need to put this prime catcher in because everyone says this card's busted? Do I need to put in this this Lost Blender card because it's what everyone says? This is where you get to critically analyze all 60 cards and all 60 value spots. And different types of cards carry different value. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying ace specs are bad by any means. They're broken. There's a reason why it has a one of limitation. They're game changing. But if you can't figure out what the best card is and you're just throwing a card in because it's supposedly good, maybe you should just do a couple testing matches without it to see are you really missing it, and
Mm-hmm.
then being able to kind of adjust your deck from there. And again, that's part of the testing philosophy and testing cycle, right? It's figuring out, is the card the best card for your deck and your win cons, or is it just a good card? Like there's certain cards that will go in every single deck. Let's be 100% honest. There's universal just eat cards that are staples. That's why they're called staples. They're always going to be put into a deck. But I don't think an ace spec qualifies as that because sometimes it just doesn't fit.
Yeah. So I think with that, it's a good transition to talking about the rogue deck of the week that I had the honor to make. And we are going to be focusing on Jolteon EX. It's the last of the EXs or the evolutions that were that was that came out with Prismatic Evolution. So for those who don't know, Jolteon EX is a stage 1 lightning Tera type Pokemon, 260 HP, and has two attacks. The first attack is Flashing Spear for 60 plus, and it's for a lightning and colorless. And you can discard up to 2 basic energy from your bench Pokemon, and you can do 90 more damage for each card that you discard in this way. And then the second attack is Dravite, 280 for a fire, water, and lightning. And you just can't attack during your next turn, which is basically the same as Vaporeon and Flareon.
Yeah.
But I will say one major difference between the Jolteon card and the other two is that it has free retreat.
And that makes such a difference. Like being able to just pivot in itself by nature, like that 280 is not nearly as worrisome anymore. Because I remember when I was doing the Vaporeon deck a couple weeks ago, I'm like, how do I chain these attacks? How can I chain
Mm-hmm.
them? And I had to go super heavy on Switch, and I had to do situational retreat reducing cards. And the Jolteon goes, just hold my beer. I got you.
Yep.
So it's super interesting. That free retreat is such an underrated mechanic. Cards with low retreat costs become just so much better because they just can turn into pivot points for you.
Yeah, and I wanted to play into that strategy of having free retreat or very low retreat. And one thing I noticed with a lot of my basic Pokemon was that they have one retreat costs. So one cool stadium that we haven't really seen a lot lately that I put into the list was Beach Court, which decreases your basic Pokemon by one retreat. So if I'm stuck in a position where I need to promote a card to so I can have a retreater, I can put in that Rotom V. I can put in the Fezandipiti EX. I can promote my Eevee and be able to power up the Jolteon because I have other energy acceleration cards in this list and get that set up, promote my Jolteon, and then be good. And then vice versa. I can have the Jolteon in play, retreat for free, and then use a switching card to get that Jolteon back into play. And that way it resets the effect of Dravite, and I can do 280 again. And I actually did that several times
Mm-hmm.
between the video and my playtesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting because you were telling me about your playtesting before you started really going into like the videos of this, and you had a card in your list that you're like, oh, this is going to bring great value, and then you started testing, and you're like, actually, I didn't read the card right.
Yeah, I originally had the Zapdos from Pokemon Go. I'm like, oh, that boosts the attack cost of your lightning Pokemon. Well, it does on your basic lightning Pokemon.
Yeah,
My attackers are stage ones, and I'm like, oh, this is not beneficial. And I discovered this while going against a deck that kept on boss stalling my Zapdos out that had 2 retreat costs on there.
yeah.
And that was before I put in the Beach Court in the list. So ever since that game, I'm like, I'm cutting this card. This is not good at all. And I'm trying to remember what I put in its place. I put in the Bloodmoon Ursaluna. just because throughout my testing, I felt like I needed a low to the ground late game attacker, and Bloodmoon Ursaluna fit that so well. It hits hard. I can just do at the very last attack of the game, and I can just close out something. And it has a pretty hefty HP as well as a basic, so I felt like it fit very well in this deck. And then I did several energy accelerations, so kind of like what we talked about last week
Yeah.
with with Pocket. There's a lot of ways to accelerate Pokemon, or sorry, accelerate energy in the trading card game. So the two strategies I went with was Electric Generator, because Jolteon's an electric Pokemon. If it's on the bench, I can put the electric energy on there and not use my manual attachment for turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also use Glass Trumpet because Jolteon EX and Eevee EX are Tera Pokemon. So as long as one of those are in play, I can put the energy onto my colorless Pokemon, and then that can be the fuel I need for the Flashing Spear attack, and then just recycle the energy that way multiple times.
Yeah, and you were talking like you were texting me during like your play testing and your recording, basically your process of making the video that everyone's gonna see, and you're like, I'm either setting up way too quickly and I'm scaring people, or you're like, I am doing a lot of comeback. And I think that's a really good sign of a deck if it does. No one likes concessions, everyone likes playing, but sometimes you don't want to lose. So it's always hard when you're on the ladder, right? When you're like, you have a deck that actually is kind of pieced together really well and it kind of flows really, really well. And people just don't want to see the end result. Or you build a deck that has a really good mid to late game that has a really good comeback potential, and you really feel like, oh, I can just turn it when my opponent gets two prizes, and they won't see it coming, kind of deal. And I think you're experiencing that with this deck as well.
Yeah, it surprised me how well this can set up. Of course, I had my games where I bricked, but that's just any deck anyway. But yeah, I was able to set it up, do the decent amount of damage. Getting the Dravite was a lot easier up and running than I was expecting. I was actually trying to build this deck around the Flashing Spear, but I ended up using the Dravite more likely than not. And it was a very good alternate attack. And then for the A spec for this list, I kind of knew I was going to use the Dravite once or twice a game, not almost every attack. So I put in the maximum belt for my A spec just because you are capped at that 280. And when you deal with the heavy EX stage 2 Pokemon, you need a little more to knock them out. And the maximum belt fixes that math perfectly to where you can go blow for blow against the Dragapults, against the Charizards, against the Garvars, and still do decent amount against the stage 1 V stars and the stage 1 EXs too. So I feel like this was a very decent A-spec choice. But as we mentioned before, I feel like there's several A-specs that can fill this slot just as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's one of those. I think this is a deck that, depending on your play style, the A spec can be changed depending on how you want to approach it. Like you really, you looked at the meta analysis, and went, I need to make sure I take care of Dragapult, Charizard, and Gardevoir, so you want maximum belt, so you can go blow for blow. While someone might be like, you know what, I want to turn one do the flashing spark attack and be like, all right, sparkling crystal, one energy attach. I have my Eevee in the active spot. Let me turn one and really just mess my opponent up on tempo. And there's that kind of component to it as well. It really depends on like that A spec can determine how you want to play that deck.
Exactly, because Sparkling Crystal and I say Prime Catcher are two good alternatives for this list. That way you can get the retreat with Jolteon really easily and reset the Dravite attack as well. But overall, yeah, this is a pretty solid list. Not saying it's fully optimized. To be honest, I did make this deck at the airport waiting for my layover flight. So, but even then, like I played this when I got back. and it felt very comfortable. And when I was recording, I was actually having a hard time getting decent content because I had so many concessions. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Like, this isn't that good of a deck, guys. Like, let me play, please.
It's like, you got set up. I don't want to see what happens when you get set up.
Yeah. So, and you'll see that in the video. Spoiler alert, but I was I was able to show off what the deck can do.
Mm-hmm.
Devin asked. I was telling Devin like, I'm having issues getting this video going. He was like, "Oh, you're setting up that bad?" I'm like, "No, I can't play a game. I keep getting wins like super early." He was like, "Oh, so you're gonna bring this to a challenge?" I'm like, "No, not that far yet."
No, I don't have that much goal. But I'm glad you had fun with it. It kind of capstoning up the whole series. I had a lot of fun building some of these decks. Some more fun than others. Like, I would say
Mhm.
my favorite deck to build was Espeon. My least favorite to build was Vaporeon, and I had two very different experiences with them. Even though with Vaporeon, I think I went 3-0 in my recording sessions. I was like, I don't like this deck, but I got wins.
Yeah.
So, but for again, the Jolteon EX deck will be on the YouTube channel on Friday at noon Eastern. It will be a kind of a profile showcase like it is for all of the road decks of the weeks that we do on every single podcast episode. So if you want to see the deck in action, please go to the YouTube channel and kind of just see some gameplay of those decks as well. But with that, Dean, is there anything else you want to add on for this week?
I would say as a reminder, when you watch the Jolteon showcase video, keep in mind this was recorded pre-rotation. So yes, it comes
Yes.
out as Journey Together is out. The matches I went with was earlier in the week, so keep that in mind. Don't be surprised like you can't play this card. It's not standard legal anymore. On Monday it was. So
Yeah, we don't record it on Friday. We don't have time to do that. So, but yeah, but like Dean said, as of Friday of this recording, so on the 28th of March, 2025, rotation will go into effect on the live client. So if you are wanting to test new decks and new ideas, that's going to be your opportunity. Hopefully you enjoy the post-rotation world. Rotation's always a fun piece. And I'm excited to see what rotation plus the new set's going to bring us.
yeah, I'm excited for our live stream play testing session. Bringing in some new decks from the Journey Together format. Being able to showcase cards that were put off to the side because of what we have right now and coming back to life with this new format, and then also introducing new archetypes. So we
Mm-hmm.
have a decent selection for Friday. So as a reminder, 7 o'clock Eastern time on this YouTube channel. We're excited. I've been talking to my friends about this for weeks, so we hope that you all can join us for that, interact with us, ask us questions. We'll try our best to answer. This is an experiment. That is a theme of this channel. Is we're doing a lot of experimentation, so we're excited. If you're interested in playing road decks, please join us next week, April 3rd, I believe, that Thursday night at 6 p.m. at Coliseum Comics in New Tampa. It is on the event locator on Pokemon.com.
Pokemon.com.
So if you need a reminder, go on the event locator. It is on there. This is something I've been planning with my local professor for a couple months now, and I can't wait to see who comes out and what decks are brought. I was going through all my decks earlier, and I'm like, oh, I need to use these cards to build for rogue for the live stream. Like, but I'm considering to play this for Rogue Deck Night. Okay, let me try another one. No, I want to play this for Rogue Deck Night. So I'm excited. So please join us for that. Um, Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us know that you like this series and you like the content that we do, and it helps with our algorithm. We have been growing. I'm very excited about all the changes we made. So please tell your friends about us, and hopefully we can get more and more people interested. Maybe kind of jokingly, we get so popular we can get invited to Worlds next year.
I would
and
love to be a
maybe.
featured content creator at Worlds. That would be probably the highlight. I was talking to my wife. We were watching content creator. He made an announcement. He goes, "I'm a world content creator." He goes, "A year ago, I never would have imagined that." I go, "I didn't get my invite. Pokemon didn't send me a web form to fill out." So that would be great one day. Absolutely, it would be so much fun.
But if not, we do this because we love showcasing road decks and how it impacts the meta and the competitive scene. So maybe I don't have to worry about getting content creator. I'll just go as a player. We'll see. Maybe.
Yeah, more
But
than one way to get the worlds.
oh yeah, absolutely. So
So,
with all that, Devin, do you have any final thoughts for today's episode?
No, I think we had a really good time talking about the future, the post rotation, wrapping up this deck building series. I'm super excited for our future conversations. You and I have already been kind of planning on the back end, and I hope everyone's enjoying it too. It's honestly been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So starting next week, we will be focusing more on Journey Together, as that is going to be legal, or not legal, but be on the live client. So as soon as I can get my cards uploaded there, I'm going to try a lot of decks. But with all that being said, thank you for listening and have fun playing those sneaky decks.
Bye, guys.